What's up everyone? Welcome back and/or welcome to the channel. Today is going to be a little bit different as we're not going to be focusing on a place, but today we're looking at writing stuff, and the stuff isn't even the main point of interest. Instead, we're going to cover how it's written. Now, being a dog and lacking opposable thumbs like all of you apes means I'm not much of a writer, but as an intellectual dog, I'm aware of how important writing is in global development, so let's look at how it developed in the Vietnamese context and how we ended up with the current system. As always, let's start with too much context. In our previous video in Kuala, we did a bit of a deep dive into how Vietic, which would go on to become Vietnamese, evolved from Austroasiatic, so we won't go into too much detail on that process here, but feel free to check out that video if you're interested. The Austroasiatic language group never developed its own writing system as far as historical records go, rather they adopted and adapted scripts from other languages depending on the conditions of the places that it spread to. For instance, the Mon Khmer family, that is now the language of Cambodia, took on a version of the Brahmi script from India. Meanwhile, back in Vietnam, the Qin dynasty was running around conquering shit, with northern Vietnam coming under Qin Empire rule by 214 BCE. The following century or so saw the region exchange hands numerous times and is way too complicated to get into here, but came under the control of the Han dynasty in 111 BCE, and would remain under Chinese rule for the next 1,000 years. This is when Chữ Han was introduced for the sake of administrative purposes and would be the first historical example of Vietnamese being written down. This is also where we'll quickly point out that in Vietnamese, the word Chữ refers to any single written symbol in any language, be that a letter representing a single phonetic sound from an alphabet like Latin, a consonant vowel representation from an abugida like Thai, which itself was actually adopted from Khmer, or a character in a logographic system like Chinese, where a character doesn't tell you anything about how it's spoken, but only the meaning or idea that it represents. In Vietnamese, all of these are Chữ. Now, anyone who knows anything about either language knows that they are wildly different. They come from different language families and have totally different phonemes. While Vietnamese changed a lot during this period, tones, for instance, were adopted from Chinese and aren't present in any other Austroasiatic languages, Chinese characters weren't ideal for representing Vietnamese language. Much of the change in Vietnamese linguistic structure over that 1,000 years was likely due to trying to accommodate the use of characters, but it was imperfect. There was a system called Chữ Nôm that was developed, which was the creation of brand new characters to represent specifically Vietnamese words. But these would only see widespread use during the Ho dynasty. No, not that Ho. Yes, okay. Between 1400 and 1407, and the Tay Son dynasty from 1778 to 1802. There was also this incredibly interesting proposed writing system called Quoc Am Tan Tut, which uses individual radicals to represent phonetic sounds, similar to the Bapomafo or Julian alphabets that are used on Taiwan to teach kids characters, or the hiragana and katakana systems of Japan. A radical, by the way, are these little individual building blocks of a character that themselves hold some meaning, so if you're well versed in your radicals, you can sometimes put together what a character is supposed to mean. Anyway, Quoc Am Tan Tut was proposed in the middle of the 19th century, but never really caught on, which is a shame because it's really neat. Now, let's finally get onto the modern Latin-based alphabet that Vietnam uses, Chữ Quoc Ngữ, which can be traced back to three main European Jesuits, or Catholic missionaries. The first is this Portuguese guy, Francisco de Pina, who arrived in Vietnam in either 1617 or 1618, depending on the source, and was the first to start transcribing Vietnamese words into the Latin alphabet. Next was an Italian by the name of Cristoforo Bori, who did the same. And most importantly, we have this French guy named Alexandre de Rhodes, who in 1651 standardized the previous Latinization attempts, introducing the use of diacritics, which are the little symbols added to a vowel to represent tone, and introduced new letters to distinguish between particular sounds such as a and o, as well as u and among a few others. The French colonial government of the time was in favor of this system, as it was easier for both the local population to learn as well as the colonists who were in charge, and in following decades it would be fully embraced by the revolutionary movement as it allowed for an efficient spread of literacy among non-affluent workers and the peasantry. Classic commies and their love of literacy. By 1910, the French government made the alphabet the official script of the colony, though under French rule education was still quite restricted to the upper classes and for administrative purposes. And by 1945, the literacy rate remained as low as 5%. The aforementioned embrace of the alphabet and promotion of public education by the modern system has brought that up to 95%, with the youth literacy rate being over 98%, making the youth of Vietnam some of the most literate people in the world. Well, that was a lot to get through, and very different from our normal, hey, look at this cool place kind of content, but we love history at this channel and linguistics is awesome, so this was an intersection that we had a lot of fun deep diving. So if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please let us know. And there may be bits that we got wrong in our research, so any corrections given will be added to the description once vetted. So as always, click that like button, pause subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye!